All right, so I've tried this way too many times. There is no perfect way to introduce myself or to start this, so I'm just going to get into it. Basically, the long story short is a 29-year-old unsuspecting woman takes Ancestry DNA, curious about ethnicity, and uncovers that who she believed her father was is not her father. And as I'm sure you know, it was me that happened to. Um, so, yeah, you probably have so many questions. You're probably like, what? How? Why? Yeah, I had those questions too. So I guess I should start with my upbringing. I would say that I was primarily raised by my mom's parents, my grandparents. My mom was 16 when she got pregnant with me, going into her senior year of high school, and she dropped out and then had me uh, at the end of her senior year. So, growing up, I believed that my father was her boyfriend that she had throughout high school. Like I said, she was 16, and who I thought was my dad was 25 at the time that I was born. He already had a 6-year-old son from a previous relationship. And basically, I don't ever remember my mom and him being together. My mom met my stepdad and got pregnant again when I was 3 months old with my sister. And so I've always just known my mom to be with my stepdad and my sister to be my sister. But I did live about 15 minutes away from who I thought was my dad. And growing up when I was really young, he made a lot of an effort to be present in my life and to stop by my grandparents and see me. Um, I remember going to his house on Sundays for the day. I never once in my life spent the night at his house. And as I got a little bit older, I don't really think he knew how to connect with me or how to be a dad to a daughter. So we just kind of grew apart. I didn't really want to go to his house anymore. I would say when I was like 8. So, of course, I visited, but not on a consistent basis. I primarily was with my grandparents or with my mom and my stepdad. Maybe it's important to say that who I believed was my dad, I never doubted that he loved me, and I never felt like he doubted that I was his daughter. We just never bonded or connected. And it was something that bothered me growing up, feeling like I didn't really have anyone because my sister had both of her parents together, and I felt kind of like they were a family, and I really just never felt like I belonged. I knew that I was like very important and special to my grandparents, but I knew that they weren't my parents. So I just kind of didn't feel like I belonged. And I was always trying to be smarter, to work harder, to just do as much as I could to try to prove my worth. And it never ended up going how I had hoped or what I thought would happen. I had wanted to take Ancestry DNA for quite a while. I've always been like fascinated by genetics, and I love shows like The Genetic Genealogist or Long Lost Family. And I I was just really interested to see where I had come from and to see my ethnicity estimates, or to try to like see if I had other siblings out there or aunts or uncles that I didn't know about. But I mainly did it for the ethnicity estimates. I was really afraid to take Ancestry, and I don't know if that's because I watched true crime shows or what, but I was worried that how would my DNA be used, and would it really be beneficial or worth the risk of putting my DNA into a system just to find out where I come from. So originally I bought a test back in, I want to say 2019 or 2020, around, maybe it was 2018. Anyway, it was several years ago. I bought a test. I decided that I didn't want to do it. I wasn't comfortable with it. So my partner, he took it and got his results, and it was pretty exciting, and I was happy for him. But I just didn't feel comfortable taking it. So time went by, and I would mention how, oh, I wish I knew like what I was, or um, I should take one. And I would mention it from time to time. Well, my partner bought an Ancestry DNA test for me when they were on sale, I want to say this past summer. And it was at our house on the kitchen table for weeks, maybe even months. And he'd be like, why don't you just take it? And I kind of was just dragging my feet. And so finally one morning he's like, why don't you just do it this morning? So I was like, okay, because he had been asking. So I sent it out, and I got the updates and was tracking along and excited to see what it said. And so on, I believe it was Saturday, it was September 30th of 2023. It was about 9:30 at night, and I was getting ready for bed. And I checked my email, and it said, I had an email from Ancestry, and it said that your results are in. So I hollered out to my partner and was like, hey, my results are in. And he's like, hey, wait for me. I'll come on in and we can compare ours. So we're comparing our ethnicity estimates, and mine didn't really have anything that I found to be interesting or too exciting. And then he's like, what about your DNA matches? And for some reason, my app wasn't working to show me the DNA matches. So I had to log on my like web browser on my phone. And the first thing that popped up was father, 50% shared DNA, and a name that I had never seen before. But the last name was one that I recognized from the area. And in that moment, my mouth kind of just was like my mouth dropped, and I kind of just felt like all the blood from my body was just draining, and I felt cold and I guess really just in shock. And I kind of thought it was a demo at first, but then I recognized names of relatives from my mom's side, and I just couldn't believe it. And so I said to my partner, my dad's not my dad. And yeah. So that was kind of how I found that out. A little bit emotional, because that was such a big thing. Just give me a second. I don't want you to think that the emotion is because I was upset that who I thought was my dad wasn't. It was more about the fact that I'm 29 years old and I have no idea who my real dad is. I have the wrong last name. I don't know my family health history. I don't know who this is, what the circumstances were, if this is going to make my mom upset with me, if he's even going to want to know me, if he's alive, what he's like. I had so many questions. So having grown up primarily with my grandmother, I called my gran and I was like, hey Gram, I got my ancestry results and my dad's not my dad. I told her the name, and she's like, I don't know that name. You're gonna have to wait and talk to your mom tomorrow. It's gotta be wrong. You know who your dad is. And so I was like, okay, there's no way I'm waiting. So I called my mom. Luckily she answers. She's usually in bed super early, so it just worked out really well to be able to talk to her. But so I say the same thing. I got my ancestry results. My dad's not my dad. And she's like, what? You're kidding. No, Mom, I'm not kidding. My dad is not my dad. It says that my dad is. And then I tell her the name. And it's quiet for a second. And she's like, I am so sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God. I am so sorry. So that was confirmation that the results were true, which it should have been obvious that it was true, but I think that when you just grow up believing something, it's hard to accept that truth right away, like instantly. Um, so I say, who is he? Why am I just like finding this out? And um, basically, from what I understand, it was a one night stand with one of my mom's friends' brothers, and no one ever knew that it happened. And so I'm like, what friend? Who is this? Um, and she says, oh, do you know this specific lady from our area? Yeah, I know her. I went to school with one of her sons, and she's hired me to do work for her. That's your aunt. It's her brother. Wow. My mom has no idea where he is, what his life has been, really anything about him. If he's a good person, if he would want to know me, no idea. She just apologized, and she was in a bit of a shock and went through her own process. But yeah, so right away, I just felt like I had to do something. Like I felt like I had missed out on so much time that I didn't want to miss any more time, and I just wanted answers. So I should give you like a little bit of backstory on my newfound aunt. Um, so I actually have a gravestone cleaning business, and she was my first customer, and she hired me to clean her grandparents' stone, which is now I'm aware is my great grandparents. And they were very important to both my biological dad and my aunt. They were kind of had a similar relationship to them that I grew up having to my grandparents. So it just, I don't know. It feels like the universe had some part in this, for sure. So, and she has a craft business, and I had ordered a couple things from her when school started, and I had recently ordered a nursery sign for someone for her for a gift. And so by the time I messaged her, I think it was like 10 or 10:30 at night, and I sent her a Facebook message and said, hey, you're the only one that I could think to have this tough, scary conversation with. I took an Ancestry DNA test, and it came back with my biological father being his name. And I asked my mom, and she said that she was friends with your younger sister growing up, and that it was a one-time thing. And I'm not sure how to proceed. So she read it, and it felt like it took her so long to write back. I really don't think it was that long. And she said, I have to say, I'm in a bit of a shock. Who is your mother? Told her my mom's name, and she said, I remember her hanging out with our sister. And we kind of were just going back and forth. She was asking questions, I was asking questions, I was sending pictures. And basically she said, do you need some time, or do you want me to tell him, or do you want me to give him, like, you want his contact information to reach out when you're ready? So yeah, so basically I felt like it was best for her to tell him, because at that point I'm a stranger. And so she says, okay, I'll tell him tomorrow. And then we were messaging, I think, a little bit more, and she said, I'm sure that he'll want to be involved as much as you want him to be. And I didn't really have I didn't know at that time. But so she said she was going to tell him the next day. And I just felt like I couldn't sleep. I felt like I needed to know more. I felt like I was now worried about, am I really going to be accepted? If he never really had a family or raised a family, is he going to want to be a dad? Are we going to hit it off? Am I going to like him? Is he going to like me? What's he like? I don't know. I just had so many questions. So she then messaged me and said, oh, I'm actually texting him right now. He's going to FaceTime me. And I think it was like a half hour I had to wait. But she messaged me and said he remembered, and he didn't, he saw on his Ancestry that I showed up, and he basically accepted it, and he was willing to talk to me. And he said to add him and his wife on Facebook so I can get a little bit of insight into their lives, and if I want. So right away I added him, and he accepted. And I sent him a message just basically briefly introducing myself. He sent me a message back that was very kind and accepting, and he said that he was looking forward to getting to know more about me. And then the next day I texted and asked if he would like to talk on the phone or FaceTime, because I kind of just wanted to see him live. And he said that he was out of the house, but he'd be willing to talk or FaceTime once he got home in the evening. That evening, we FaceTimed, and kind of, it was a little bit awkward, but not too bad. And I could just tell he was probably a little bit nervous too. And we kind of talked a little bit and decided that we were going to stay in touch. And I think we had said like maybe we would talk on the phone once a week or something like that. But ever since then, we've at least texted every single day. And he flew out to meet me within 3 weeks of finding out about me. So the first time that I met him, instantly when we hugged, it felt like I was whole. And it makes me emotional because I don't think that I ever realized that I wasn't until then. And it just felt like he was my dad. And he only came for a day and a half. That's all he could with his current job. And just how sad I was after he left, I knew that I had to book a flight to go visit him. And I'm not someone that does that. I am someone that has not really socialized, put myself out there or anything. And I just felt like I had to. And so he was willing to have me. We planned a trip for a couple months later. At the end of December, I went out, flew out by myself. Only my second time flying. My first time flying was a quick hour and a half or 2 hour flight back in June with my partner. So this was my first time flying and having a connecting flight and going by myself, going to a place I had never been. And even though we had been talking, staying at his house, and I had never, who I had thought was my dad, I had never even spent the night at his house. So it was just so much new. And I did it. It was a challenge for me to do it, but I did. And I'm just like so proud of how far I've come. And I feel like finding out that who I thought was my dad was not my dad made me trust myself more in a way, because I never was able to connect with who I thought was my dad, and I always felt guilt for that. And I just feel like it allows me to trust myself a little bit better and to know that I knew deep in me. As far as like the gravestone cleaning of my great grandparents, and there are just other synchronicities that I just feel like there's some kind of magical, powerful element to this. And it came at the perfect time for me. And my dad has said the same thing for him, that it came at a perfect time in his life. And I think that we both know each other so well. And I don't know, I just feel like there are so many similarities. I feel like I can relate to him differently than I have ever been able to relate to anyone. I feel unconditional love because there's no reason that he couldn't have just said, hey, I didn't raise a family and I'm not interested in being a dad. Pretty much, I think it was like the second or third day that I like straight up asked him, do you want to be a dad figure in my life, or would you want to be like an uncle or a friend? And he stepped up to be a dad. And it's been so healing. It's given me confidence to pursue things and to really live. I feel like for so long I've been afraid to live and to put myself out there, to try new things, to dream, and to believe that I was worthy of having the things that I want in life. And this was honestly a blessing. It hasn't all been easy. It's still a lot to take in. But I have to keep coming back to the fact that I feel like it's the biggest blessing in my life. I feel super thankful that he reacted the way that he did. And I'm so grateful to have the dad that I have now. And it's just been such a beautiful thing. I feel like you hear stories like this and it doesn't go this way. So many people have said this sounds like a Hallmark movie. Overall it is. Sometimes it feels like more of a Lifetime movie, but overall it's just been such a great thing. And I hope that I bring him half the love and joy that he has brought to my life. I just feel so lucky to have this, and it was really just a wake-up call. So why not start the channel? You know, I never would have saw this coming. Why not start the YouTube channel now? Why not start trying to pursue the dreams that I've had, that I've been too afraid to do anything about? I guess that's where I'm going to take you. I turned 30 this summer, and I have some goals that I want to get to by then. I want to document them. I want to share it with you. I want to continue to share about my story with finding out that my dad was not my dad. And if you have any questions relating to that, I'm sure that you might, that I didn't think to answer, but leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer as many as I can to the best of my ability. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that this makes you feel good. If nothing else, I would love it if it inspires you to do something today that you've been afraid to do, that you've been wanting to do. You can do it. You are worthy. You're capable, and you're more powerful than you think. That's all for now. I will see you in my next video.